Ladies and gentlemen, please join us in welcoming a 20-plus time World Tag Team Champion, a former member of the Nation of Domination. He has worked for every major promotion to date. He has been known by many names, such as Wolfie, Cyberpunk Fire, Slash, and most recent, Cerebus. Please put your hands together for former WWE superstar, PG-13 member, Wolfie D.
Hello, guys. That's a cool mix you got there.
Thanks, man. It's I worked on that. You can kind of enjoy the internet and the tools you can use. It's hard to find the PG-13 rap intro for the Nation of Domination. I tried, but tried to do the best we could. So
it's out there, man. Because they actually got us on that. Back when they put the WWE as WWF, the music out, they took me and Jamie's voice out of the music, so they didn't have to give us no royalties. But come to find out years later that the overseas version actually left our voices on there. That was before the internet and all that, and you could really find stuff. But yeah, we found out later that version had our voices in it. And that's what, if you do find it, that's the version you're getting, is the overseas version.
I'm gonna have to try to research that and find out. I got a friend I can turn to that's real good with the music, so I'm going to have to try to find that and keep that for my own personal collection, man. First and foremost, we appreciate you coming on the show tonight. We won't take a whole lot of your time, man.
Not a problem.
Mainly, a lot of people obviously remember you from your time in USWA down there in the Memphis territory. Is that where you originally got your start?
Well, sort of. I mean, that was the first break. When I was like 15 when I started training. I was 16. I had my first match around the Nashville area. Back then it was called Outlaws. Now it's independent. But that's where I got started. But then I stayed on that circuit for 2 years or something like that. And then when I can't remember, I was 18 or 19 when Jerry Jarrett gave us our break in February of '93.
Now, like I had mentioned in the intro there, man, you'd worked for every major company there is today. When you got your break to work with WWF at that point, you were still young and into the business at that point.
Right.
What was it like working for him at such a young age?
Well, the first time we went up was actually before the Nation deal, and that's when we did the thing. They gave us a win against two job guys, and then gave us a title match against Smoking Guns, and that was really cool. And I really didn't know whether it was going to lead to anything else. We knew going up that it was just kind of a one-time deal to do Raw a couple of times. Lawler got us that deal. But it was a good way to show, and we were really small back then. And that was, I tell this story all the time. That was before the Mexican invasion. It's like we were a little before our time because they loved our work. They loved the gimmick. They loved all that. But they're like, oh, they're too small. Well, hell, then a few years later, everybody got small. So
Definitely.
That kind of sucked. But then Cornette got us the Nation deal because that was 95, and then 96 is when we did the Nation thing, and that was cool. And we didn't know what we had. We were young and just having fun and partying with the rest of the guys, But hey, we weren't top guys, so and plus we were nuts. We were our own worst enemies, and like I said, didn't know what we had, and just shot ourselves in the foot.
That's the bad thing, I guess, about getting the break at such a young age. You just don't realize what it is you have.
Yeah, and, there was one thing I could say. I never really had anybody, like now it's kind of changed, man. Some of the guys will get like a veteran to take them under their wing and stuff like that. I didn't really have anybody to kind of point me in the right direction and say, hey, man, you got some talent here. Because it's like back then, nobody wanted to tell you had talent if you had talent, And now I feel like the guys are, the older guys are a bit cooler with the younger guys. They're not as threatened. Back then it was like, no, he's going to take my spot. To a certain extent, I'm sure it's still true, but I see a lot of the older guys trying to be, more positive mentors to the younger guys.
I think it's because they see the lack thereof drive, I guess, in the business now. That's what the business is lacking completely is the drive, and I think the mental ability to be able to do it and not want to just do it to get your name out there. Yeah,
well, to a certain extent, I think that's right. I don't know if drive would be the right word because I see some of these dudes, man. They want it, but they don't know. They don't have that ability to, I've said this 1,000 times too, they don't have the opportunities that me and Jamie had. We worked 6 nights a week against pretty, good talent, and now these guys are working, maybe once a week, so, if they're lucky 3 times a week against other guys that don't know what they're doing. So they're not able to learn as much as we were and as fast as we were, That's the thing that they don't have now.
Yeah, you had the loop. You had the loop with the USWA. You did Memphis, Nashville, Louisville, Evansville.
You learned how to do TV. You learned how to do on-the-spot interviews. You learned what heat was. You learned how to get over, and going to a different town every week, for these guys now, going to different shows, it's just not the same. It's hard, and nobody knows how to get heat anymore. That's another thing. That's a whole other show.
But you'd worked, like I said, you worked everywhere. You worked for ECW, WCW, but after that time, and after you leave in Memphis, you went back and you repackaged yourself, and later I guess you signed a developmental with WWE and joined OVW Slash.
I never signed anything, actually. I was just on a nightly basis just because I was cool with Cornette, and I just came up and did that. He kind of, I came up with the gimmick and threw it at him, and he's like, we kind of molded the name a little bit because I actually had a last name on it. I was going to be Slash Killings, like a serial killer. And he didn't like the last name. He said, I'm going to call you Slash. I'm like, that's cool, whatever. So, he brought me up, and I was just cool with him and, stayed at his house and stuff like that on Wednesdays and did that. And then they started looking at me, and they liked it. And, I did a couple of Jacked and a couple of, I don't remember what the name of that other show was. Anyway, one of the other syndicated shows. But anyway, I mean, they were real happy with me, and it just didn't materialize. And I don't know if it was because very close to that same time, with Slash, I was bald-headed and I had one white eye. Well, all of a sudden Kane took his mask off, and he's bald-headed with one white eye. So I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but could have been.
That's another question I was going to ask, why you were actually in OVW working with Sin, and then you had BJ Payne, you had Leviathan that was coming up at the time too.
Right.
I didn't know if there were ever any talks of, I guess, packaging you all together and bringing you all up as a group.
No, I know of. There was no talk of that. They were really, I mean, as far as I know, they just talked to me. Jim Ross talked to me personally, and face to face. So, and like I said, I was the only one that went up and did a couple of those things. And they actually put me with Kevin Thorne for a couple of tag matches, and then I had a singles match against Ron Truth.
Okay, because I grew up in the Louisville area myself, so I'm real familiar with that product up there. I remember going to the Gardens every Tuesday night, watching OVW when it was across the bridge over there in New Albany. In Jeffersonville, Mechanic Street, that ran down building. That poor thing there. But at that point, after I guess you ran your course there at OVW, you went ahead and moved into working for TNA. Well, you can't be fired if you're not under a contract, right?
That's true, Bill. They quit using me, put it that way.
It sounds better.
I had one of my episodes. But anyway, then did the TNA thing when they first opened up, just, again, because I was cool with Jeff. And eventually did sign a deal there. But, yeah.
And that was what was it like? You went back recently and did the one night only pay-per-views. What was the big difference between the early days of TNA and the one night only time frame that you were there?
Oh man, like night and day. At first, man, everybody was hungry. Everybody was trying to get it to take off, and everybody's busting their asses and things like that. And what I saw when I went back that time, obviously for me going back, I was trying to get my job back, so I really wanted to go there and, show out and have a hell of a match. Well, all the guys on the roster, and understandably so, they had been there for, 4 days or something like that, all day long. So. And this was, I think, the last day, our taping. And so, everybody was tired. Nobody looked like they wanted to be there. It was just kind of, let's get out there and do this and get it over with. My match, I think, could have been 1,000 times better. It wasn't awful, but it wasn't what I wanted. It wasn't, it wasn't what I wanted to show to try to get my job back. But, it is what it is.
Now, back in the early days, I know that they had tried to just bring in some shocks and surprises along the way. Did they ever try to, I guess, fave any of the boys in the back with some of the surprises?
You know, I really didn't. If I wasn't involved in it, I really didn't give a shit. And that's just, I mean, that's a good way to be, really, honestly. Kind of keep your nose out of everything, keeps the heat down. But, yeah, so, I mean, a lot of it was a surprise to me. You know, like I said, if it wasn't mine, I was just doing my thing.
I understand, man. With that, a lot of your history, you were a tag team and a tag team. Now, you've done both, obviously, along the time, done tag and singles. Which do you prefer?
Presently, I really like being a singles wrestler. I feel like at this point, and this is going to sound so like I think I'm great, but that's really not it. But I feel like when I'm out there most of the time, everybody in the ring is less experienced than me, and I feel like I have to tell everybody what the fuck to do. And so I don't want to do that. I want to be able to just do my thing, you know. But you know, not that that's every match, and you know, I understand I'm good to help to some of these kids and stuff like that. You know, the guy I got with me now in TCW, Roosevelt, you know, we're called the Hounds of Hell. We were the tag team champions. We just lost them, but we had them since February. I'm having a good run with him, and I'm having a good time there. It reminds me a lot of TNA when it first started, because everybody's hungry and everybody's trying to get off the ground. And I think it's a pretty decent product. I've heard some people knocking stuff, but I think it looks good, you know, when I watch it. And certain things can be tweaked and stuff like that, but overall, I'd rather be there than a lot of these other places right now. It's a good deal.
And that's TCW, that's traditional championship wrestling. And the thing with them that I've noticed, I believe, they stay here in the southern atmosphere, I guess. But they travel around. They don't just run a town and kill it. Yeah. Well, it's kind of like they're trying to get a little loop going, you know. They've got Fort Smith, Arkansas. They've got Meridian, Mississippi. And they've actually got some really good ratings down around Louisiana, Mississippi and stuff on some of the local channels. As you know, they're also on the Pursuit channel on DirecTV and Dish Network, and that's national. But there's some really good ratings going on down there, and they're not interested, and they've said it. They're not interested in being anything but a Southern-based wrestling company, and that's smart, in my opinion. You know, why get out there and try to compete with Vince or TNA at this point? You know? Yeah, because it's not going to happen. Many have tried, but you know what I mean. When you have that, it does. But when you've got that working relationship, like USWA did with WWF at that point, it obviously helped USWA along the way. Did it do WWF any good up north? Absolutely not. But it helped the younger guys, I guess, at that point with him to try to get experience by bringing in some of the bigger names. But, absolutely. And I see TCW does that as well. They'll bring in a couple of big names for each show. And the thing that I've noticed, they don't book them against each other. They'll book them against the younger talent they're trying to help build. And that's what they need to do. And you just can't put the Dreamer again. And what's good is they're not trying to load the card up. They're not trying to load it up with those guys either. Bring in a couple to help out and build your own people, which it's a decent formula. It's working. There's just a few slight tweaks that need to be made as far as, in my opinion, a little bit of direction and help. But you know, overall, it's good, man. I actually DVR it because it comes on here in our time zone. I'm here in Kingsport, Tennessee right now. It comes on at 1 a.m. Yeah? So I think it's channel 604 on Direct. DVR it, go back and watch it. I enjoy the product. Yeah. It would be, I guess, the guy that they've got playing the general manager. I don't know. Yeah. Parker. He's. I don't know. I don't buy him as being a general manager for some reason. That's one thing that I've noticed. He's good at what he does behind the scenes, for real. He's gotten most of these TV deals. That's Parker's doing. He's good for the company. He really is. He really is. So he deserves that spot. I mean, I really don't watch the entire show in its entirety. I really don't even hardly watch wrestling. I know that's awful to say, but I'll watch my stuff just to see, you know, how it got over, or, you know, what I may have done wrong still at this age. But did you see the last show? I have it on DVR. What screwed me up with Direct, from where it's put into the 2 30-minute segments, it's only been recording the 1 o'clock.
Okay.
And not the second half. So
well, that's all you need. For this one, go watch the first match. That's us. And then watch the Afterbirth. It's really good. And I think it's intense, and I think it's one of the best things that's been on the show thus far as intensity. It's really good. And if anybody's listening that hadn't seen it, it's actually still on the website. Like I said, first match on there, the Hounds of Hell versus Genetic Perfection. TCWWrestling.com. Check it out.
Okay. And just hitting on that real quick, you're working with a lot of younger talent down there. One I'm familiar with being here in this area is Jason Kincaid. And,
yeah.
And that kid, when we first moved here from Louisville, he is. When we first moved here, we went to a Bo James show. I was already in the business. I was trying to talk to Bo, trying to get my foot in the door down here. And me and my fiance, she was training at the time. We picked two people when we first moved here. The two that we picked, Kincaid was one, and Chase Owens was the other. And after seeing them develop from 5 years ago to where they're at now, it's just mind-blowing. Yeah.
I only met Kincaid when I started in TCW, so that was February. And, yeah, man, he's good, and he's a humble kid. You know, he listens. And I dig him, man. I think he's good. I think he does a lot of good stuff, and he wants to learn more, you know. So some of them don't. They already think they know everything because they can do 1,000 flips, but they'll figure it out.
Now, man, I won't keep you much longer. Just your state, I guess in your opinion of the state of the tag team wrestling right now, will we ever see it on the rise again?
Man, I don't think like tag team wrestling was our area, you know. This area was awesome with tag team wrestling. Like Vince and them, I mean the Road Warriors, of course, and that more of WCW really. Like Vince, I don't think has ever been really like a tag team. I don't want to say they don't like it, but it's more of two singles wrestlers combining to make a team for that match, as opposed to two wrestlers that are a team. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's
just like back in your
difference.
day, you had the Godwins, you had the Smoking Guns.
Yeah.
You had tag teams that weren't just
had
thrown
names.
together.
They had
gimmicks,
team names.
Yeah, men on a mission, and it's just it goes on and on. But man, I won't keep you. Any final thoughts or anything that you want to say to the listeners?
To you, man, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. You know, that I'm worth even listening to. And to anybody else that has been a fan or would like to become one right now, the main place you can follow me, like I said, TCWWrestling.com. You can hit me up on Twitter. It's @LikenAssassin. And Facebook is under my real name, Warren Wolf, WOLFE. So if anybody wants to follow me or whatever, feel free to do so.
Man, we truly appreciate you coming on the show tonight. Believe it or not, I'm actually taking away a lot from it, just hearing your aspect of the Southern wrestling. And I truly hope traditional championship wrestling down there takes off and can hopefully make it to our area. I know they hit Nashville here recently. Hopefully they'll bring it over here to Eastern Tennessee. And
well, I'd like to see them do it. Because, you know, that's where I'm at now. I'm in Knoxville now, so.
Yeah, I remember seeing a post on Facebook talking about the Alcoa Highway and how miserable it is.
Yeah, man, it's a mess out there.
Man, we truly appreciate you joining us tonight.
Yeah, have me on again, man, anytime.
Okay, man. Ladies and gentlemen, Wolfie D. Thank you, sir.